This is Smithy.tv.
Hi, I'm Katie Ullman reporting for Katie Chats here at Smithy TV in downtown Toronto with the rock and roll doctor, Casey Johnson. How did you become this fabulous rock and roll doctor?
I guess I've always been into music, and I just never thought I could be that guy. And then at some point, I don't know when it exactly happened, I thought like somebody has to be that guy, you know? So I just started getting into it.
Awesome. And when you say that guy, I mean, what does that mean? Being a rock and roll doctor, are you like, you diagnosing?
Well, it's pretty complicated. It's not, it's sort of like a black art, so, I can't really give away all the secrets, but basically like the main part of the practice is kind of running a radio show on CIUT 89.5 FM. So that's Thursday nights, midnight to 2, but I mean, the really big picture, there's other things, there's like a lot of tangents to the whole thing. So, I don't know, there's like a lot of things you can do with music, and I don't think they're being done. Yeah.
So what things in particular do you think aren't being done that need to be explored a little bit more?
That's a great question. All right, first of all, you got to feel the way you want to feel. You got to do what you want to do. So even if you think you should do something else, like you're like, oh, I should play this song, or I should like this song, or I should say this thing. If you don't feel like doing it, you shouldn't do it. So that's kind of the mandate. That's the only rule on the radio show. Is if somebody comes on, they want to play something, I'm like, you can play whatever you want, and you can say whatever you want, but if you don't like it, you shouldn't do it.
Absolutely. So stay true to yourself, more or less.
But it's a rigorous mandate. Like it's not a sort of fair weather staying true to yourself. It's rigorous.
Okay.
relentless reevaluation, yeah.
And do you have a favorite all-time band?
Oh, that's a good question. I have to say a little bit at the beginning, there's a lot of patron saints. Bo Diddley, I'd say, was kind of like an early influence for sort of what the show. Actually, the big problem I started off doing the show, and I started off doing like a rock and roll show, and I thought it should all be rock and roll. And then I realized I was getting uptight because I was doing what I thought I should do. And then sometimes I'd be like, I want to play this other song. And so it started off very narrow, and then I was like, doctor, heal thyself. And so I started to open up the paradigm wider and wider, and now it's just sort of the journey keeps going, basically.
Awesome. And you also do some DJing on the side. How did you get into that? Well,
for the longest time, until, sort of right about very recently, I was like, oh, the DJ's some other guy. He's got some kind of special equipment, and he's got some kind of special fairy dust. And I'm like, well, I've got all this, these nice clothes, and I have the records, and I have the show, so I figured maybe I can make money off that. So I occasionally do live DJ nights, and you should keep your eye out. There might be more. It's been called Rock and Roll Radio DJ Night. Weddings, stuff like that.
Awesome.
But I try to keep the caliber very high, so selective criteria.
Cool. And what's the best part about DJing?
I gotta say, when you're there in the middle of the night, I do the show by myself in this giant building, it's that feeling of total freedom. And if I don't like it, I can turn it off. And if I like it, I can put it on. And I like the discovery. I put on something that I think I'm gonna like, and it really feels like for the first time when I hear it on the show, it's like the first time. Sometimes it is the first time I've really heard. But it's that feeling of actually hearing something and kind of having your mind blown away by it a bit.
And when you go to an event to live DJ, do you have an idea of what you're going to play, or is it very much kind of feeling out the space and the people and flying by the seat of your pants?
Okay, there's a rig. It's part of the methodology. Is very strict, and so I bring more than I can play, and I think about it beforehand. There's a lot of rummaging, and then I bring records to the event, and yeah, if I in an ideal world, I would be. I just have miles and miles of vinyl to choose from. So yeah, I prepare, but I want to make sure that at the moment, either during the radio show or during a live thing, that I'm always making the decision there, preferably being able to cue it up before playing anything. So even if it's a cool song, if it sounds bad, like in my head at that time, no go. Okay. Or even if I'm playing it, I don't like it, it gets cut off.
It's done.
Yeah, I mean, you know, whatever.
Yeah, awesome. Okay. And you have some diverse interests as well in film. Can you tell me a little bit about your current project?
Yeah, I mean, rock and roll radio is kind of like the promotional wing of a larger creative arts kind of industry. So I'm working on a documentary film. It's a little, I mean, I wouldn't even call it a documentary. It's like, maybe like the Monkees movie was a documentary. It's sort of loosely a documentary about an interesting character, a friend of mine, and I think it's going to be music heavy. So we're in production for that. Learning how to make movies is hard, so it's going to take a little while. But I think people don't realize like film and video are at least half sound and music. So when I'm like, I haven't made a movie before, but I have a lot of music background. So I'm doing that. I'm working on a recording studio with some friends. So we're going to be recording all Toronto's newest, best underground rock and roll. Well, not rock and roll, it could be anything, but analog, groovy stuff. Working with some people from a Toronto punk band called School Jerks. So old friends, we're sort of trying to do it the way we want to do it.
And where is the best place to find out more information on cool underground music in Toronto? I always want to know, and I don't know where to find it.
Well, you ask a good question, because rock and roll radio itself is kind of more history focused. But if you want to find out about rock and roll radio, you go to look it up on CIUT.FM, rock and roll radio. You'll find links to everything else. It'll all be linked together. There's a podcast, there's a blog. CIUT is pretty good for contemporary. But you know what I mean? I'm still looking. I don't think it's quite there yet. So hopefully once the studio's done, there'll be a much better representation of underground, cool, or not underground, just more exciting music coming from Toronto.
Thank you so much. Congratulations on all of your success, and best of luck with the studio and the film and all of your upcoming projects.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. I'm Katie Allman reporting for Katie Chats here at Smithy TV in downtown Toronto.